Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to UrbanMonk's Mindfulness 101, How Thinking is Killing Us. And I'd like to say thank you for spending time with me. And if you're watching this on catch up, where you been? So tonight, I want to talk about that grey, heavy, squishy thing inside the head, the brain. It's linked to all the things we do, because as I've said on previous shows, its only job is to make sure that we don't die. And while I wasn't here last week, I was researching mindfulness, manifestation, and the law of attraction. Science calls it neuroplasticity. It's all the same thing. It's retraining your brain to have new neural pathways to help you learn to do a different kind of thing to what you're used to. So what I'm talking about with that is we think negative things, and as I said before, we get negative shit. If you start thinking positively, neural pathways start to develop in the brain to help you think positively all the time. And then through manifestation, positive things come as a natural byproduct of the way you're living your life and thinking. For example, and it's quite interesting, a couple of days ago, I picked up my guitar from having moved house. It's been in the corner, covered in lots and lots of shit, covered in dust, but I picked it up and started to play. And it was strange that it's been probably a couple of years since I strummed a tune, and I struggled to start with. But as soon as I started, the neural pathways in my brain from previous playing kicked in, and it came back to me in seconds. If you're trying to teach somebody to learn to play an instrument, it's very, very difficult and very rote-like. A now, B now, C now, etc. But the period of time that I spent away from the guitar, we call it getting rusty. What it basically means is that the neural pathways in the brain aren't connected like they were before. And if you watch my previous shows a couple of years ago, it's obvious that practice makes perfect. And it's not practice making perfect, it's practice making neural pathways. Sports people do it, all musicians do it. The more you play, the more you practice, the more you do it without thinking. So if we talk about the brain and the way it is programmed, if you like, to make sure we don't die, it comes from birth. Basically, the brain is set in a certain way, but it can be changed. It's not inherent in what we do, as in fixed and rigid, and that's the way it's always going to be. It's more fluid than that. So if we try a new project or we try a new skill, then we learn a new language. One of the books I read recently, and I can't remember what it's called, my memory's terrible. It says you can't understand a foreign language because the neural pathways for that particular language aren't already set into the brain. So we learn it. We learn what the word for table is in French or Spanish or German, and the brain creates a neural pathway to be able to understand that word the next time we hear it. So guitaring, piano playing, drumming, you don't need to be playing and thinking what's the next chord. It should be automatic. And through that process of practice and developing the neural pathways, then it becomes second nature. That is simply living. We need to learn to live in the moment, be present. And the more we accept the present and we don't stress about the problem, again, the problem that you have, the anxiety you have, is your brain's way of telling the body that there's a tiger nearby or a robber nearby and you're about to get mugged. So be on alert. The body floods with cortisol, which creates illness or injury. We have that set practice of victim mentality, if you like. You know, we always look out for the bad things. And if we're focusing on the bad, then we can't develop the good. Everything about the brain will focus on the negativity because the ego then is allowed to stay alive. So just taking time out and relaxing and forgetting about the anxiety or the pressures or the issues that you've got, we slowly start to learn or develop the synapses, the neurons inside the brain to create that healthy living on a permanent basis. I was reading a really interesting book. It's manifesting within neuroscience or neuropathy or whatever it is that uh, I got off Amazon Books, and it goes on. It's very, very linked into nowism, the thing that I talk about constantly, mindfulness. And from a scientific point of view, if we stop and think and focus on the good, or take time out to chill and relax through meditation or through whatever, then anxiety can't get in. The body vibrates at that level, the vibrational level of the universe that we want to link into, if you like. And it's kind of like brings us into how we think about things. So get your pen and paper, and I want you to write this down. It's very deep, and it came to me. I read it a few months ago, but it's so pertinent. You know, we spend our life trying to look up to somebody or appease somebody or have a target or a goal or somebody that we look up to. And this saying was, "I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am." So let that sink in. Write it down. I'm not who or what I think I am. I'm not what or who you think I am, but I am what I think you think I am. Because we spend time focusing on appearance and looking for something else, or adulation or acknowledgement from someone else or something else, instead of taking time to just love ourselves. And again, I read in the book, this is quite a deep show, and I apologize for that because I know normally I'm a barrel full of laughs and you can see the halo around my head. The brain is focused on simply keeping us alive. So in the book that I read, and I'll mention it next week, I'll get the title for next week because it really, really is special. We think we live our life. We go about our daily life dealing with the problems that we encounter. But the reality is that the brain creates our life. So, for example, I drive for a living outside of urban monkness when I leave the monastery. And when I take a journey, I'll make a decision. If my sat nav's not working, for example, I make a decision to turn left or to turn right. My brain made that decision. So whatever happens having turned left, that's created by the brain. It led me into that circumstance. So deep philosophical people say that we don't really exist. This is all just an illusion. And your brain creates the circumstances that you live in to cope with that illusion. Now, Eckhart Tolle is quite deep, and he would say something similar. I like to think that that's the philosophy, but I kind of don't think it's. I don't want to get that deep because a lot of people can't take that sort of bullshit. And I thought what I do now for a living was woo-woo at one point. So we have to kind of slowly raise our level of consciousness to understand that philosophy further on down the line. But take it as a beginner, or if you're experienced and you followed me for a long time, just imagine that can be actually quite truthful. You know, we wake up in the morning and the first thing we see is the side of the bed or the bedroom wall or the TV or the sofa if we've crashed downstairs after too many bourbons. You know, it's the minute your eyes open, you begin to create your reality. And each decision that you make, and each decision that you are guided by that voice in your head, is you creating your day or your life for that moment in time. So we tend to ignore the brain. We tend to think it's just there. Everybody focuses on heart health and, you know, eating the right amount of food or the right kind of food and cutting down on the cholesterol because your arteries will start to clog up and you'll start to become ill and blah, 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 blah. But we ignore the brain. Oh, I've got stomachache. I've got pains in my chest. Well, I might have a headache, but I'll take a tablet. We all ignore the brain. And it's there, and it's the life-giving force, and it's what creates our reality. And the voice inside the head that's killing us by telling us to do X, Y, and Z and focus on X, Y, and Z which really we shouldn't be doing, because that's taking us away from what the universe has really got us here for, which is to raise the level of consciousness. And I mentioned last week, people go to see psychics and mediums. And once you start to vibrate on the correct energy level, you automatically link into the psychic world or the spiritual world. Again, I thought it was all woo-woo until I did my road trip, until I found my enlightenment or my purpose in life, really. I thought that was all woo-woo and bullshit. We're just here, we live, we go to work, we die, we get buried. Well, that's not the case. So we live within the universal energy or law, call it God, call it the creator, call it what you want to call it. But it's a real thing. And science is starting to prove that. And science is starting to prove that the brain vibrates at different levels, given different emotions. And before I sign off, I didn't set my timer, so I'm sure Dave will tell me when I'm running out of time. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I want you to do a quick test, right? How thinking is killing you. So when you think thoughts, the thoughts that you're thinking adversely affect the body via vibration or not. 2 minutes. I ain't got my glasses on, but it looks like 2 minutes. So I'll wrap this one up. So what I want you to do is get hold of your Adam's apple, just very lightly. Don't squeeze too hard, because that can be detrimental to your health. And what I want you to do is close your mouth and just think or say something inside your head like you would be telling your body what to do. And if you're doing it right and you haven't seized up or you're too tense, your Adam's apple will start to move. If you recite the alphabet, by the time you get to G and H, it's bobbing up and down. So thoughts affect the body. So whatever you're thinking, say it out loud, alphabet, inside your head, A, B, C, D. When you say it out loud, the Adam's apple moves up and down. When you say it inside your head, guess what? The Adam's apple moves up and down. So whatever you're thinking adversely affects the body. So thank you for watching. Just do it a test. When you're not tense and not stiff, give it a test. I've got the 60-second get lost warning from Dave. So I'll sign off. Hit me up on UrbanMonkUK on Facebook, UrbanMonkUK@gmail.com. And this time next week, we will have the website up and running. You can have a look at it now. UrbanMonkUK. UrbanMonk, UrbanMonkUK. It's in the process of going live, but you can look at it now. So I'll bid you farewell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.